Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Cam here from the Tech Lecture. Today we are going to be taking a look at Amazon EC2 within Amazon Web Services. This is the second video in our Amazon AWS installment. In the first video, we covered how to actually create your Amazon account, just the basic, some of the basic services that that Amazon provides, and some of the ones that we were going to cover. So if you do not know how to make an Amazon account, or you haven't already, you can watch that video for a step-by-step follow-through. If you already have your Amazon account, then you're ready to go. So the first thing you're going to do is actually log into your Amazon account via the AWS Management Console. Once you do that, you'll be on this page right here, and then you can either do a search for EC2 or just click it down here. Alright, so this is Amazon's Elastic Compute cloud, basically. This is where we can run virtual machines in the Amazon cloud, and because we're running them in the cloud, we're able to access them from anywhere, which makes them extremely easy and extremely versatile. So, first thing, whenever you click on EC2, you get brought to the EC2 dashboard. We got a ton of information down the side here. We'll cover some of this for now, just to give you an overview. So this is the instances that you have running. So an instance, think of that as just a virtual machine. So each virtual machine is an instance. So this tab right here will show you all the instances that you have running. These are the instances. We're not going to worry about launch templates or spot requests or any of that right now. But just understand that an instance is a virtual machine. So under images down here, we have AMIs. That's Amazon Machine Image. Basically what that means is we can take and we can create an instance, and then say from a CentOS Linux server, and then we can create an AMI out of that. So which is basically taking a snapshot of the current state of the machine and being able to save that as a template, so to speak, that we can launch again later on and create duplicates of our servers, is essentially what that means. Elastic block storage, that is the hard drives that, the virtual hard drives that are actually attached to our EC2 instances. We can create more than one of these and attach multiple hard drives to one EC2 instance. Network and security tab down here, we have security groups. So think of these as basically as like an extra firewall, so to speak, that is on the instance. So this dictates what is actually allowed to communicate with the instance. So from a port level. So if you want to run a web server on your EC2 instance, then you would have to take the security group that is attached with our EC2 instance, and we would have to open up port 80 in the firewall, or in the security group in this case. And I'll do a much deeper walkthrough of all this. This is just kind of a high-level overview of what the things are, so you have a little bit of background for whenever we actually go through and launch an instance. Elastic IPs, so those are static IPs essentially that are attached, that we can attach to an EC2 instance, to where the IP will never change. So we can put a DNS entry, we can point a domain name to this Elastic IP that's attached to our instance, and actually be able to access the instance from anywhere at any time and not have to worry about the IPs changing. So an Elastic IP is more for a production thing, or something that you're trying to actually put into production, not something that's just going to be in development for the most part. Key pairs, those are SSH keys. So that is basically if you launch an EC2 instance, by default you'll tell it what key pair you want to use. So what SSH key pair that we want to use. I'll cover SSH keys a little more in depth later on, but basically that's how we're going to access our EC2 instance initially. Network interfaces, you won't really have to worry about that. Those are going to be auto-generated for you. You can create your own, and actually attach them to the instance. We're not going to cover that in this video. Load balancing, we're not going to cover any of that in this video. That is a little more advanced than what we need to go. Auto scaling, also more of an advanced concept. We don't need to cover any of that. The rest of this we're not going to cover in this video either. So this should give us a good baseline. This is going to be more of a beginner's guide on how to launch your first EC2 instance. So right here in the resources overview tab, we see we have 0 running instances, no hosts, no volumes. I have 1 key pair because I have launched EC2 instances on this account before in this region. 0 elastic IP, 0 snapshots, you can see it. So something of note, I will create another video for that's going to cover regions and availability zones later. I just wanted to get this video out here now. Essentially, the quick and dirty overview of this is that there are different regions. So these are the different regions that I can launch EC2 instances in. Think of these as like the big areas that Amazon has data centers, and then these are the big ones, and then there's smaller ones within these areas if we want to get more granular. I'll create another video about that and explain more about that later, but just so you have an understanding. So for instance, we're in the US East, which is Ohio in this case. We're in this region, but then there's 3 different availability zones within this region. So think of those as 3 different Amazon data centers within Ohio. And then 3 different or 4 different ones in Virginia or whatever it happens to be. All right. So now with a little bit of background covered, we can go ahead and actually launch our first instance. So right here you can click launch instance. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier with the Amazon machine images. So how this works is Amazon actually provides some of these for you, which are these Amazon Linux ones. Each of these AMIs comes with different functionalities, different packages and things installed in them. So there are reasons to choose one over the other. There are also, you can create your own AMIs, which you'll be able to view from here. The marketplace, you can actually purchase different AMIs from people as well. Community AMIs, these are ones that people in the community have produced or other people have created that they are providing publicly for you to use. And then you can actually filter by operating system and whatnot. Okay, in this case, we're going to go ahead and launch a basic one. We'll use this Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Some of the main differences, probably one of the biggest differences between these two, is this has the systemd stuff in it. This one does not. If you know what that means, you may not be watching this video. So think of it as this is a more updated version of this one. So this has the newer modules in them. This is essentially how I'm going to explain that for now. So we're going to run with this Amazon Linux 2 AMI module. Or AMI, rather, not module. Okay, so if we have chosen to use the free tier, so if you're creating your Amazon account for the first time, you are able to run an EC2 instance for, I believe, a year if you use the free tier eligible stuff whenever you're configuring your EC2 instance. So this is a T2 Micro. It has 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory, elastic block storage, pretty low to moderate networking performance. So for this video, we don't need to run anything crazy. We are going to actually use this T2 Micro. So if you are on Amazon's free tier, you can follow along with this and you're not going to have to worry about extra charges if you're on the free tier. If not, the instances are actually extremely cheap to run. They're not expensive whatsoever. There's actually an Amazon price calculator you can look up over here. Amazon price. I'll Google this for you. I think I'm gonna use this one right here. actually. Yes, this right here, you can actually use this calculator to estimate your monthly costs of running your EC2 instances. I highly recommend this if you're looking at your costs and how much it's going to actually cost you to run instances or use most all of the other main Amazon services are calculatable from here. All right, back to this. So in this case, we're going to launch one instance. We don't need to launch any more than that. Do not worry about the spot instances for now. VPCs, you'll have one by default. That's virtual private clouds. Don't worry about that. I will create another video about this, talking about VPCs more in depth. Subnets, doesn't really matter which one of these we use. For now, there is a default subnet for each availability zone that we have. So for now, let's just go ahead with, we'll use US East 2C. You can use any of the other ones. It's not going to make a big difference. Just remember which one you used. Okay. Auto assign public IP. We are going to enable that. It's probably already enabled by default. Don't worry about IAM roles rather. For now, we'll create another video about that later. Yeah, all right, that should be fine. Okay, this is going to auto assign us a public IP. So that is exactly what we want. Go ahead and click next. Go down here to storage. This is an 8 GB hard drive. You can use that if you would like. I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to 30 gigs. That is also within our free tier eligibility. Okay, delete on termination. We do want this to where the, basically this check mark delineates that whenever you delete the EC2 instance, that this hard drive will get deleted along with it. I'll cover some performance stuff later with these drives and how this IOPS stuff works, as well as like the performance that you're going to get for this particular drive. There is several performance modifications we can make in here if we need faster reads or faster writes on our drives. We'll cover that in a different video. We're going to go ahead and review and launch. We don't need to touch on any of the rest of this. Okay, so our security groups right here. Make sure you click edit security groups. So just so I can show you in here, like it says down here, anything with this address is accessible from anywhere. In this case, we do have the SSH port open, so SSH 122. If we knew that we were going to run a web server on this instance, then we would want to open either HTTP or HTTPS, depending on how secure we want it to be, for this instance as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off for now and move forward. You can add to this later on, after we create the instance. If we decide that we need a web server, we can update this security group with that information. So go ahead and hit review and launch. Double check everything's good to go. As far as I can tell here, we should be ready to launch. So go ahead and click on launch. Okay, so now this is what I was talking about earlier with our key pairs. So this is how you will actually get into the instance. So what you're going to want to do, you probably won't have a key pair yet if this is your first time launching instances. So we will create a new key pair. I'm going to name mine Tech Lecture. You can name yours whatever you would like. Download, just kidding, can't have spaces. Okay. TL then, Tech Lecture. Download your key pair. Amazon being specific over here. And then go ahead and launch your instance. Alright, so we have our instances launched. Hit view instances down here. And we can see our instance state is pending. So we'll cover this real quick while this is loading up. Something I would highly, highly recommend is to give a label or a name for your instance right here. This becomes very cumbersome if you launch a whole bunch of instances and then you forget what they're supposed to do, and then you accidentally delete the wrong one. So we'll just call this Tech Lecture Overview. And then we have our name right there. So this is the name of our instance. This is the instance ID. Later on, for other things, you may need this information. You can always access it from this panel. It's not a big deal. It's also in this Instances tab. This is what this is, the Instances tab over here. Okay, so the availability zone we launched, as we said before, US East 2C. The state of the instance is now running. Amazon can actually perform status checks on the instance to make sure things are running appropriately. These status checks are initializing. It can also do alarms to where if certain things happen, then it will alert you of those things. We're not going to run with any alarms on this particular instance since it is just for demonstration purposes. But later on, if we would like to do so, we have the ability to. Now, this is your public DNS entry for this instance. So this instance is accessible via this DNS name right here. It is also available via this IP address. No IPv6. Now this shows the key name that we used. I named mine Tech Lecture with the TL, and monitoring is disabled. Shows when it was launched and what security groups we have associated with this instance. A lot of this detail and more is all listed down here. Here is where we can see our status checks, our monitoring, and tags on the instance if we have them. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to connect into this instance now. We are going to use this DNS entry right here. You can also use this IP. Okay, so go ahead and open a terminal here. Let this load up. So I downloaded that SSH key in my downloads. So what we are going to want to do is do an SSH command to get into this instance. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you guys. Alright. Now the name of this instance, because I've done this several times, is EC2-user. If you connect in as root, there will be a nice little error message that will tell you to go ahead and connect as EC2 user instead. So EC2 user at, and then it didn't actually copy our DNS entry. So let me go back and actually copy that this time. Paste in your DNS entry for your instance. Make sure this is your instance, not mine. And then I meant to give this here. This is our private key, so I name mine to.pem.text. So this is telling SSH that I want to use this as a private key, and then I would like to SSH in as EC2 user at this address. Accept our host key verification check. Give it a second, and it should let us in. Just kidding. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is change permissions on our Tech Lecture, our tl.pem.text file here. The problem is the permissions for that are too open. SSH doesn't like it, or actually will not allow you to even use it if permissions on it are too open. So we're just going to chmod them, change those permissions, make it 600 on tl.pem.text, double arrow up, and rerun our command. Alright, as you can see, it allowed us into the instance. So now, basically what we just did was we launched our first Amazon virtual machine on EC2, and we have just connected into it via SSH. So with this, I'm probably going to stop this video for now. It's getting a little long. It's about a 20-minute video right now. So we have launched our first Amazon EC2 instance running Amazon Linux 2 in the cloud. Now it is publicly accessible. Anybody can use this DNS entry and actually hit your web server, or hit your EC2 instance rather. So later on, whenever we fire up a web server on this machine, we will be able to access it remotely if we so choose. So we'll cover that in another video, but for now, you have successfully just launched your first virtual machine on Amazon's cloud. So congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to shut this down. That way you don't get charged for it. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is right click, go over down here to Instance State, and choose Stop. If you choose Terminate, it will delete the instance permanently. So for now, we're just going to choose Stop. Now you can actually, if you're not on the free tier and you do this, you will be charged slightly just for maintaining the elastic volumes. It's like very, very slight, like few bucks a month, if that. So it is not a lot of money, but I wanted to let you know that up front. That way you didn't receive charges and get upset with me. And again, I am not liable for any charges or anything you may incur. This is purely for educational purposes, so don't sue me. But alright guys, you successfully just launched your first Amazon EC2 instance in Amazon's cloud. In the next video, we'll cover we'll either cover further stuff with EC2 or maybe take a look at S3 potentially. We'll see what I come up with for that. But stay tuned for the next video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.